Hello, America. Welcome to the Junto Podcast, where we promote the practical applications of critical thinking and bold creativity. I'm your host, Edgar Mills. Thank you for joining us. Hello, America. Welcome back to episode 65. And what am I talking about today? I'm staying with easy breezy topics. I'm trying to throw out some easy breezy stuff here. And yeah, it's helpful. These aren't throwaway episodes for sure. I'm just not talking about the ills of communism or politics or whatnot. But what I want to talk about today is it's kind of relevant to everyday life, not only personal life, but business life. Small talk. I'm not very good at it. I'm not a good small talker, really. And I mean, a lot of people, I'm kind of in my mind, I'm all business all the time. I'm always trying to, I don't know, I think we should be solving a problem or making some progress. If we're talking, we need to be talking about things that matter. That's kind of the way I look at it. And I know that seems overly serious, and I'm not an overly serious guy. It's just, I don't know, man. Small talk, if it's not going anywhere, it's not going anywhere. So that's kind of the way I've always looked at it. And if we're not making progress on a project or a problem, and it doesn't even have to be my project or my problem. If I still want to solve a problem, I still want to make some relevant gains and things. So I think that possibly even in my career has possibly made me a little bit unlikable. And unfortunately, it's my personality that, I don't know, people either like me or they hate me. There's not a lot of middle ground, I don't think. That could just be from my perspective. I don't know. And if you're unlikable, it's very possible that you're, uninteresting. And I don't know which I dislike more, being disliked or being uninteresting. I think I'd rather be interesting than liked. But yeah, that's just me. That's my personality. If I turn on, and here's the catch with me is that if I think you're genuinely interesting and I like what you do or where you're at, then I'll make great efforts to like you and be your friend and may even be colleagues or whatever. But if I don't, maybe I won't. I don't know. We all have our own quirks that make us unique, our own little system glitches. We all have them. Our own little personal weirdnesses, things that we don't normally tell people about or that we're embarrassed about, or it just may seem silly. I still like, I follow pages on Facebook and other social medias about little action figures, little G.I. Joe action figures. Well, that's not very interesting to most people, I'm sure, but I do, and I don't share that often. So, congratulations, America! You just found out I like G.I. Joe action figures from the '80s. But I'm a regular guy though, and I think there's a lot of regular guys that like. There's probably grown men out there that still collect Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. So anyway, yeah, the question is how do we become interesting to other people? How do we share the appropriate amount of personal information? Sometimes for the last episode, maybe I overshared a little bit. the sex after 50 episode. Maybe that whole episode was an overshare. But how do we find the right bits to share that again are appropriate, but that humanizes us to the people we're talking to and kind of, I don't know, man, in a way that actually connects, Because whether it's personal life or business life, you want to connect to agree. So that's what we're going to talk about is how it relates to personal life and how this stuff shows up in business or your work life. A couple episodes back, we talked about manners. And I got some good positive feedback on that episode, by the way. I think a lot of people may agree that as a society, we're kind of, well, not completely losing the manners, but I mean, to a large degree. And who wants to be in a hyper formal environment anyway? I don't, but that doesn't mean you can't use good manners. So, at any rate, we're talking about now that we're taking the next steps now, right? Building on the good manners because good manners invite people in, but they don't necessarily make people want to stay. It takes more. In my opinion, and this is a curated opinion over years, but broadly speaking, I don't believe that everyone's interesting in their own way. I think it's just, are you willing to get to it or not? Nobody's actually boring. In fact, do a little exercise, pick out the most boring person you know, and then respectfully, in a friendly way, ask questions, get in there, and you'll probably find some, very interesting things once you get past the surface level. Social media, for sure. I know this is the big evil we talk about a lot, but social media especially, but also professional environment, professional settings at work, whatever that work is, those pressure us to present a polished, perfect, ideal version of yourself, whether it's on the socials or whether it's to the people you work with or your bosses anyway. And you have to have that veneer of, well, no chinks in the armor, and you have to be impressive, depending on your job especially. You have to be impressive all the time. And that's fine. If you're that guy, drive on. If that is genuinely who you are, if you are that superhero, that super fit, super perfect, super smart guy, then drive on. But if you're not, you don't have to, because if you're not genuinely that, if it's not authentic, then chances are it'll backfire on you anyway. You start to see, especially on social media, and how irrelevant is any social media anyway. It's the new marketing tool for sure for things, but everybody now, even individuals with nothing to sell or nothing to offer or no services, still build their own personal brand for the socials. That's madness. So but we've seen via social media, people who've been around for a few minutes, you start to see that it starts to backfire. And then some ugly crap gets exposed, or some ugly past, or the way they treat people around them on a daily basis versus on the TikTok or whatever. Now, for me, I spent many years in an environment where you didn't have to put on any mask, right? You had to be competent and you had to be straightforward and honest. You didn't have to smile. You didn't have to make pretend that you were buddies or friends, or you didn't have to say things that you didn't. It was mission oriented, right? The military, especially in the 82nd. I've got a sort of funny story. I'll share it. I had a break in service, and so when I went back in the Army, I had to do basic training again because of the gap in service, apparently. And when I got out, I was, I was never an NCO or anything the first time. And anyway, in AIT, because I had gone to AIT as a 31 Charlie, and that was a radio, operator type. Anyway, we just show up to AIT, and all the drill instructors back then, the drill instructors were like tax. You went and got training from other people, subject matter experts. The drill sergeant's only purpose was to march you from, do PT in the morning, and then make sure the barracks were square. So at any rate, the drill sergeant has us around in a semicircle, and he's going around the clock, Hey, well, why'd you join the Army? And this was in 1996 or 95. And he said, hey, why'd you join the Army? What motivated you to join the Army? So he goes around the clock. And almost everybody in that class was 18 years old or 17 even. I was 23 or 24. And a friend of mine was already probably 24 or 25 or so. We were the oldest two guys in the class. And he goes around and they all say, what did they say? This is hey, I want to go to college. Yeah, I just want to do, I want to go to college and make something of myself. Yeah, I want to. And some of the kids were like, yeah, I think this job will translate, and it'll be a good job so I can get a career after the Army. And then the drill sergeant looks at me and he says, why'd you join the Army? And I said, I joined the Army because I need a structured lifestyle. And I said it straight-faced, just like that. And he blinked twice, and then he moved on. There wasn't any small talk. I wasn't trying to be cute or funny. I was not trying to say what he wanted to hear. I told him exactly why I joined the Army. I joined the Army because I need a structured lifestyle. No small talk. And that drill sergeant, well, ultimately, he eventually liked me, but he pulled me aside later on. He's like, hey, man, that was kind of a hard guy. But yeah, they come to appreciate my stance there. Anyway, but that didn't backfire on me because it was the truth. And me and my friend he was the distinguished honor graduate with the highest GPA and highest, I don't know. I was the honor graduate. He was the distinguished honor graduate. I can't remember what set us apart on that. But yeah, I think a little maturity there too. I mean, anyway, it did not backfire. So in the Army, at least when I went in, it was straight talk was appreciated. And hell, even being hard was appreciated. In the 82nd, it was, most people were kind of, you might even say a-holes a little bit, but there was no ambiguity. There was no lack of clarity when somebody said a thing. And that was important to me. Now, of course, that has gradually changed over the years, but that's another episode. Anyway, coming back to civilian life after 25 years in the Army, I noticed that a lot of people expend a lot of energy, trying to sound interesting or to appear to be interesting, instead of just genuinely being interesting. So I guess the moral of what I'm trying to say is be real, be yourself. Yeah, you can tone it up or tone it down depending on the situation, Maybe in job interviews you want to be a little more polished, but even then, be genuine. So anyway, as I said, I believe that everybody is in some way interested. So we're carrying that around with us. It may be messy a little bit, but we have it, right? We have this messy version of ourselves, the quirks that we don't normally share. So how do we let some of it out without being awkward or even scary? How do we do that? Well, I'm going to go back to the manners episode again. I think that was a good episode. Good manners are an outward act, of respect, even baseline respect. Good manners are an outward display of that. And good manners create a sort of a level of predictability in the way you're going to behave to a thing, and that predictability kind of gives a level of safety that I can say yes or no. I don't have to be subservient to this human who I may be scared of or whatever. So good manners kind of opens those doors. And then, well, let me step back. You can be well mannered and still be cold as ice, and you're well mannered just as a rule, and still incredibly unfriendly or unapproachable. You can do that. I have done that. I do that often still. I do have good manners as a rule, but I'm not always quick with the smile or the kind word. And I try never to be ill-mannered, however. The absence of good manners isn't necessarily bad manners. It's just a state of neutrality, I think. But likability, however, manners, yes. But being likable, well, that's a level of warmth that you have to sprinkle on to the good manners. And what does that create? If good manners create predictability, well, then likability and the warmth kind of creates a little comfort zone, right? Comfort zone. And you get that when somebody, I don't know, seems to actually take interest in you, or they actually enjoy speaking to you, and it's not just a transactional thing. But the key difference in the two is that manners are an act; they're to be performed, whereas likability is not really, right. That's more of a personality sort of thing, I guess. But it's not performative. But I believe the likability shows up when you are genuine, when you sincerely care about what the other person has to say, and you're genuinely curious about the person you're talking to, whoever that is, and in whatever context even. Yeah. It comes with that conversation, that sincere interest. All right, sometimes I quote obscure people, and I don't think Will Rogers is obscure, but probably millions of the Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Z, well, maybe Gen X, Gen Z, and millennials for sure probably don't know who he is. But anyway, he was an entertainer, a performer. I think he even did vaudeville, but he was an American philosopher. Yeah, he was an American philosopher. He was also like a comedian. He was kind of a multi-skilled performer. But what Will Rogers said, and he was a native, by the way, he was Cherokee. I never met a man I didn't like. That's who said that. That's who coined that phrase. I never met a man I didn't like. And Will Rogers was not a naive dolt, right? He was saying that, what I think he was saying was that his default setting was curiosity or interest as opposed to judgment. A lot of people who are judgmental, they already size you up before you ever open your mouth. And they lack that genuine curiosity because they just don't care. Yeah, whatever. So I think that shift, that default setting as curiosity versus judgment, is where he was coming from there. And that changes a whole conversation, changes the tone of a conversation. Yeah, Will Rogers. The author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, his name was Dale Carnegie. He said that you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. I like that. Right. And that backs up that curiosity that I was talking about, that I thought Will Rogers was talking about, and that backs that up. Just be interested in other people, and then they'll become interested in you. So, as always, with this podcast, in every topic, no matter what it is, I think, what's the point of me talking about this if I don't add some practicality to it, practical use? How do we use this in our daily life? Well, thoughtful follow-up questions, right? When you're having a conversation and it, oh, really? Well, how did that make you feel? Or, well, then what was the next step for XYZ? Just good follow-up questions. I think that's important, especially in a business setting. And then I talk about this one a lot. A little bit of light self-deprecation. Again, don't use that as a tool like I talked about on the narcissist episode. Don't use self-deprecation as a tool to draw people in so that you can then pump yourself up. But just a little social lubricant, just something to smooth out the edges. The self-deprecation, what it does is it shows them that you're kind of letting your guard down a bit so that they'll then let their guard down a bit. Not so that you can then attack, so that you can then have a conversation on real terms. And then, good people, these are old standbys. Well, eye contact. That's an old standby, is it not? Make eye contact when you're talking to people. But in the same vein of eye contact, in the modern day, what is it? You don't be on your phone while you're having a conversation. Put the phone down. And what does that tell people? Well, it seems like that you're genuinely interested in what they're saying, and you're not constantly distracted. It's tough to hold that. Now, some people, man, are busy on the go, and you're talking. You're like, oh. But hey, if you got to take it, hey, hold on a minute and hold that spot. Do your thing. Put it down. And I apologize. Whatever. Do that if you need to. But don't be fishing videos while you're. All right, and then I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about Benjamin Franklin, since this is the Junto podcast. He wrote about autobiography, but he refined how he spoke to people in order to be more influential. Clearly, Benjamin Franklin was one of the most influential of our founding fathers. But in his book, he talked about, he dropped words like certainly or undoubtedly, like absolutes, right? He didn't speak in absolutes because they made him sound arrogant. Now, Ben Franklin thought about this in the 1700s. Like, man. And these days, I can't remember who said it. The only people who speak in absolutes are zealots and, I can't remember. Somebody, not a famous quote. I want to say Siths, like some Darth Vader friggin' Star Wars reference. Siths and zealots or something. But I mean, if you look at it, Siths were zealots, weren't they? Yeah, man. Benjamin Franklin. Don't speak in absolutes. It makes you seem arrogant, like you. And so instead, he said things like, "Well, it appears," or "I imagine that XYZ." So that way, there was a little room in there, and that didn't show weakness, good people. It doesn't show weakness to do that, to soften that tone. It just makes you a little more relatable, I think. Well, and he used it as a strategy, but yeah, it doesn't show weakness. It just makes you more relatable. And being relatable is not a weakness, good people. But ultimately, people listened to Benjamin Franklin because he didn't force them to defend themselves. Sometimes I have this problem with my kids, and my kids have this problem with me. And these days, usually it's a bit of a misunderstanding. But if you're trying to have a conversation, but someone feels like they're having to defend themselves, they're not listening to what you're saying. They're boom, 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 blocking. That's it. Don't make someone have to defend themselves in a daily conversation, especially if trying to get things done. And a little humor. Yeah, I'm always with a little humor. If you're let's let's say you're at a gathering, right? Maybe not a party, maybe not a nightclub or anything like that, but like I don't know, a business like an organizational day, or whatever. And you're standing here holding your drink, and and it's awkward. Hell, make the joke about how awkward it is. Make light of the awkwardness and get past it, and then move on. Making a joke about how awkward it is will be infinitely better than trying to de-awkward the situation and fight through it and clarify your whatever your awkwardness. Just make the joke, man, and drive on. All right. Now we're gonna get more into business life here, professional life. And now I don't like this term, but I've been told this. I've been told this by many people that, hey, man, you're selling yourself, not shooting or not training. People are buying you. And to a degree, that's true. I don't like it. I'm attempting to build a business that transcends my personality and me. I understand, like the podcast for sure, but the shooting and the leadership development that that should transcend me for sure. And that's what I'm trying to do. However, you do have to sell yourself. You have to sell your idea, and you have to sell yourself. And in this selling of yourself, when I'm sitting and having coffee with a potential business partner, I think a lot of people make this mistake. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one making the mistake because I'm still struggling to get the range built. Maybe I'm all wrong about it. But I feel like that if you feel like you have to be a shinier version of yourself to exude more competence or more success than you actually have, I think I don't like that. I think it's the wrong way. Of course, again, I'm still struggling, so I may be all wrong. But I think the most effective way to sell your ideas is to stay true to yourself, I think. And then not only that, but especially if I'm trying to get an investor or something, I mean, you have to make the other person, well, one, see value in the idea, but two, feel valued that they are an integral part of what you're trying to do. I think that's the way. I could be all wrong. I keep saying it. I could be all wrong. But I'm going to quote now. I like the writings of Oscar Wilde. And yeah, that's a little weird, I know. But Oscar Wilde said, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. It's brilliant. Yeah, Oscar Wilde was kind of flamboyant, and he could ham it up for sure. But he understood that. Well, you guys remember Lawrence's 21 irrefutable laws, magnetism, the law of magnetism. Well, Oscar Wilde understood that the people who were magnetic, they were the ones who were being themselves unapologetically, not trying to copy what somebody else is doing. Yeah. Not trying to copy what someone else is doing. So yeah, when you're sitting with them in a meeting, or you're just having coffee, it doesn't have to be, or it's a formal meeting, whatever, man. Just be a little more honest. Not honest, but just share a little bit more, or at least humanize yourself just a little bit more. And I think that lands. Yeah, better than the polished up corporate whatever model. But yeah, I'll go back to it. On an ODA, being direct communication. I mean, the last thing you want is any ambiguity. You don't want any question about what you mean when you're doing things operations wise, or anything else for that matter. So direct communication, mission focus. That was the way. And I come off like an asshole, and I know, and there's, there may be about, let's see, a good 100+ dudes or more who may tell you I'm an asshole, but I can tell you no one will ever say I'm incompetent. However, of that 100+ dudes that tells you I'm an asshole, there's probably 8 or 10 dudes in there that loved me and thought that I was doing it right, because I never compromised the way I dealt with people or communicated. Now, again, if you ever worked for me, reach out. Hell, tell me I'm wrong, or tell me I was all effed up, or tell me I was awesome. Whatever you thought. I'd love to hear about what some of the guys that I led in the past. I'd love to hear what their thoughts are now. In retrospect, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I said, I came off sometimes like an a-hole, abrupt. And in business, in the civilian world, if you come off that way, that can look like you're trying to do the hard sell, high pressure tactics, and that probably turns people off too. I don't know. But what I think I learned is that you need to take a little breath, give a little breathing room, especially in business conversations, even in personal ones, but especially in business ones. I refer to that as tactical patience. Just give a little breath, think about it a little bit. You don't have to dilute or water down your message of what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to say in order to have that breathing room. And if it looks like they're pulling away and it's not going the way you want, you can bring it back in. You don't have to be a hard case about that, but you can bring it back in. Hey, well, let me clarify X, Y, Z, and hit those parts you need to hit. So again, how do we know how much personal detail to share? I don't know, man. You got to fill it out. I think you should share some personal detail. Open up a little bit, and then be genuinely curious, especially if you're sitting down at a job interview. One, you should probably know a little bit about the company you're trying to get a job with, or the person you're trying to get on with. But also, ask some, thoughtful questions, about the role you're filling. Hey, I'm interviewing for this job. Was without being too, what was the shortcomings? Not of the last person, but just in general, right? What are the shortcomings, or what needs to be done there? And then again, I go back to this light self-deprecation. All right, don't sit there and make yourself look like a clown. But I think that will build trust faster in a professional setting than you just trying to be the headshot. You know what I'm saying? Because especially in business, and especially in the market, right out here in the working world, I'll say it again. Will Rogers, he's got another one, and he says everybody is ignorant, only in different subjects. Yeah, man, they might need you. You might need them. You're strong here, they're weak there. Who knows what? Everybody can help somebody else out in some way. And I'm going to say this. I look at everyone, and this may sound weird, but it's all from where it's coming from. I look at everyone as a potential partner, not as a potential asset, not CIA, ASOT, all that garbage, right? To be used and discarded. I look at everybody as a potential partner to do a thing, whether it's my thing or not. Because if I can help you do your thing, well, that's going to help me. If if nothing else, just feel good about myself and have a person that I can give a call, when I'm in town, or if I'm in your part of town and I'm broke down, I need a ride. I mean, just any little thing. So it doesn't have to be transactional, though. My point is this: I look at everybody as a potential partner, and what does that mean to me as a potential friend? Because what's wrong with building a network of friends, whether it's strategic or whether it's just, hey man, I see you walking down the street 4 days a week. What do you do? Oh yeah, I work here. I do this. I do that. Awesome. Come. That's it, man. Build that trust, right? Everybody's ignorant only in different subjects. If you look at everybody as a potential friend, and I know that sounds rich coming from me. Good people. Don't think I don't see well, it's not necessarily irony, but maybe a little. I have been a loner, somewhat isolated, violent even in the past. But yeah, I think that's a thing, right? I think everybody is a potential partner. All right. So I'm gonna take a page from my friend Nathan Hicks. He does the True or Everyday Grit podcast, Everyday Grit. And he runs a company called Higher Ground USA here in Rome, Georgia. And his podcast episode, they're all very thoughtful. And he speaks in a very calm tone. And he's very soothing, by the way. He has a very calming delivery, But he likes to make lists. I'm not a list maker, but he likes to make lists. So here are 4 things, because I want to offer people a way to apply, right? Practically apply the things we talk about. So here are 4 things. Like Will Rogers, make your default mode curiosity, not performance. Make your default mode curiosity. I think that'll get the conversation farther than any other way. Number 2, share a small personal detail about yourself, not just the LinkedIn, resume. Number 3, use good manners as your baseline, and then sprinkle a little bit of warmth and likable warmth on top of that. Just a little. But the manners should be your baseline. And most of you listen to this, I know you're already well mannered. And then number 4, when in doubt in a conversation, when in doubt, ask better questions. Ask more thoughtful questions. Yeah. So that's a list of 4 things that you can do to break through awkwardness and just have real conversation, whether it's a business conversation or a personal conversation. Now, again, I'm going to go back to Benjamin Franklin's 1727 version of the Junto. You can go out and join a small group of regular guys, friends, whoever, colleagues, and gather periodically with the sole purpose of making yourselves and your community better through thoughtful conversation. Yeah, that's still available to us, folks. It's still there. And it probably still going on in some circles. It don't just have to go on in the depths and the deep depths of Harvard and Yale with the ring knocking secret societies, right? You can just get with some people who are like minded and get together, whether over at the pub over a beer or over at the coffee shop, and talk about initiatives, man. Talk about business. Talk about how to make things better. Yeah, think about that. So ultimately, folks, in closing here, you do not need to be more polished or flawless, because in reality, we all know that no one is flawless. You probably would benefit from being a little more willing to open up a wee bit and be willing to listen to understand versus listening to respond. Listen to understand. Don't listen just to respond. So that's what I'm leaving you with. That's what I think that's a way that we can be in a little more harmonious in our daily interactions at home and at work or out in the wild, wherever you are. It integrated the good manners as it we need to get that back in our lives as a societal norm. And for some of you in some areas it is, but I mean all the way to the most deepest inner city of inner cities, all the way out to the most rural of rural spaces. We need the good manners. Yeah. So that's what I had today. Consider those things. Consider them, and how can you use those things to your advantage and to everyone else's advantage for that matter. Yeah, that's it. So thanks for listening. So as always, good people, please check out ospreyshootingsolutions.com for your shooting needs. ospreyshootingsolutions.com/consulting. That is what I've been working very hard on lately. And I mean, for the past probably month or so, I've been really, probably 2 months, I've been really ramping up my security consulting. And that includes things like SOP development for your facility, threat and vulnerability assessments for your facility, even red team validations, where we send people out to challenge your security protocols. Active shooter training. Let's see. And then what I'm really refining right now, it has existed and it still exists as the Surviving Captivity course over 2 team guys, but now I have professionalized that into a curriculum for, well, world travelers, missionaries specifically, but small businesses that are mid-sized businesses that send people over to third world countries for whatever reason. This is security education, and it's called Security Awareness in Foreign Environments. Modules 1 and 2 right now, and I'm currently working on modules 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and so on as additions, right? Electives. So module 1 and module 2, module 1 can be done standalone, and all the sub-module 1s can be done standalone. Module 2 includes module 1, but module 2 is also the captivity practical exercise. So, and that is really targeted, maybe not necessarily for everyone going on a mission, but definitely for the group leaders, definitely. And even the mission, the leaders, they need to really get a very real sense of, well, the dangers that are involved. That's it. And this is none of this is fear-based, right? This is all reality-based. And we do case studies and all that. And the base doctrine is derived from U.S. Special Operations SEER doctrine, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. So that's where we derive all this stuff from. And we use other, governmental resources as well. So I want you guys to please consider that, especially if you travel overseas. And I said third world countries, but folks, we know Europe is in a sort of a downward spiral right now when it comes to civility and crime. Their crime rates have spiked just insane. So if you're a traveling salesman, if you're an independent journalist, if you are a college student going abroad, and then, of course, if you're a missionary, faith-based missionary, or nonprofit, humanitarian type nonprofit. All these places, when you go to these very dangerous countries, and it's not so much we worry about the frequency of a bad thing happening, it's that we worry about the severity of that bad thing. Yeah. If you're looking at Northern Africa, well, all of Africa or the Middle East, I mean, you're looking at most likely becoming a propaganda video and being murdered. Yeah. So again, I said I'm not doing this by fear, and I just instilled fear by saying that. It's a reality. It's not meant to stir fear. It's a reality. So that's what I've been working on hard for the past few months. So I encourage you guys to go and check that out. OspreyShootingSolutions.com/consulting. It's all there. And then, of course, good people, please, if you can, drop a couple of bucks to the Help a Homie Fund. And that is givesendgo.com/help a homie fund. And that helps us help other people. That's what we're here to do. It's grassroots. It's voluntary. You can give a buck. You can give $500, whatever. Every cent is appreciated because it's voluntary. Every cent is appreciated. And you can trust me to be a good steward of your donation. And yeah, that's what's going on, folks. I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. Again, our listenership's been growing pretty good, and I'm excited about it. I appreciate each and every one of you that give me the feedback to let me know what you think about a topic, any given topic. So please keep up with the feedback. And as always, please hit me up. I'm always open for debate, and I'm always open for suggestions for topics or for guests. Now, I don't have the pull to bring guests in from all over the world, right? But if they're not super famous and they're willing to get on a Zoom call or whatnot, I'm happy to do that as well. Otherwise, you can come on up to my couch and we can sit and have a conversation. That's it, good people. Thanks very much for listening. I appreciate you all, and I love you guys. Take care.